I'm here with Sister Bamalafar from Ghana. We're here in Chicago at the Catholic Social Teaching Investing Summit.
So Better Way Foundation is one of those players, one of those organizations that's part of this bigger movement. And one thing that I hear from my peers is that it's really hard to identify opportunities for investment. They're out there, but it takes more time to find them. The due diligence is different because we're looking at social impact, things of that nature. And so I'm interested in opportunities for more collaboration, partnership on identifying and sourcing opportunities, but also the due diligence, looking at the social impact, things of that nature. Just being part of the Francesco Collaborative, I did the workshop last summer, has been really helpful with identifying and surfacing opportunities. We had one fund that I looked at with Bill last fall with a couple other organizations, and it really helped us learn from Bill and other organizations, but I think it also made it easier for the fund because instead of doing 5 meetings with potential investors, they did 1. So I'm looking for more sort of brainstorming around how do we partner and collaborate better, more intentionally and collaboratively going forward.
Today we're going to talk about the future of SEEK, or the Catholic Impact Investing Collaborative. We had a deal sharing platform where different members of the community could put what they invested in or what they're looking at. We had deal sharing circles and pitch sessions where different managers would come in on a variety of topics. And
we've been around for 17 years, we've made all the mistakes, and if you want to learn on our mistakes, I'd be happy to share any and all of the things that have gone wrong and the things that have gone right, and talk about what it means to build.
Also having a sense of the importance of the times that we're living in. It's really vital, and Pope Francis calls into this too, to appreciate the signs of the times that we're in the midst of. And for those of us who want to be engaged in paradigm shifting work, we need to keep in mind that the future is not guaranteed. It's something that we are shaping, that we are co-creating in the midst of the present and with one another. And really tee up a question that we will invite you to discuss at your tables. So this is together, my friends. Grab your meal, grab a drink, enjoy fellowship.
A change of mindset for investors who really have ears to listen.
within the umbrella of impact investing, how to designate different shades of impact investing.
Without an objective form of determining what's a good investment, like an IRR, people get to make decisions about what's most valuable and what's most worthy of investment. And that it can be challenging to make sure that investment gets to the places where it needs to be the most. And with people open, recognizing an opportunity to kind of further the work and have a joyful community.
Carol, you came in from Netherlands, Amsterdam.
Yes.
How is it feeling, the first Francesco Collaborative gathering?
It is a lot. It is so intense, and the ideas are just flying. And
I'm just kind of sinking into awareness that I'm with my people.
Fast friends is how I would describe the relationships developing, right?
It's amazing. I have this chance also of connecting with people and especially discussing and working together, like building the network. So
it's a different energy to be in the room with them and to be talking not just about how we feel about being together, but about where we're going, which is really exciting.
Missio Invest, we are an evergreen debt fund that specifically invests into Catholic Church-run social enterprises in Africa.
Middle market businesses with diverse workforces and low and moderate income workers, and then we use our debt capital to essentially help finance the transition of that company into 100% employee-owned using an ESOP, employee stock ownership plan.
Hi everyone, my name is George Scott. I'm a principal of Blackstock Stability. We're an investment management firm focused on fair and equitable home ownership by attacking predatory debt products that give the illusion of home ownership but not true home ownership.
Hi everyone, my name is Elise Douglas. Works across the country with community-based organizations who are under threat of gentrification and displacement, and we help them secure land early in the gentrification process to prevent displacement. As part of that, we've been organizing our existing capital providers and investors into a national fund, the first of its kind, to be able to move early stage capital quicker, at scale, and more efficiently, to ensure long-term affordability
one of the big ones is how to uphold the vision and the charism and the boldness and the values of the sisters going forward. We all just acknowledge that they were really key in seeding the CDFI sector as it is today. Like 40 years ago, a lot of those organizations wouldn't have existed without the sisters. So just thinking about how we can uphold that vision and seed the next generation of CDFIs.
Catholic social teaching principles call us into a countercultural way of investing with a commitment to accompaniment and relationship with those on the peripheries. So, have the faith to risk and risk again. So, where are you risking more and more now? Thank you.
So that breaking free from the Kool-Aid, that realization that I had been fed a bunch of untruths, was helpful when I shifted into finance. In this giant blue thing of Kool-Aid with a big F on the side, you can picture the Facebook logo, now turned into this giant green thing of Kool-Aid with dollar signs on the side. And I started to see the same exact patterns, the same rhetoric that I was fed at Facebook being fed to me in the finance industry. That the ultimate purpose of corporations is to return shareholder value. Take a sip of your Kool-Aid. That externalities would eventually be priced in because corporations would act in the interest of pricing in those externalities. Take another sip of your Kool-Aid. That only financial experts can really make the decisions on finances and your values. And one of my favorites is that if you are getting financial returns that are less than market rate, you are doing something concessionary. That's a loaded one. Let's talk about market rates. Why do we all obsess about market rates? When we dig in, market rates are just the historical things that have happened in benchmarks in our society and system from a finance standpoint. And those benchmarks are established on extractive systems. We know it, like we already bought into this, like, hey, fossil fuels are not great for the world, and so that's our pariah. But those are still the benchmarks. When we have ESG funds, and many holders of ESG funds were excited about the returns the last few years, Facebook is one of the top holdings in those funds. We have holdings that have exploited people's bodies by stealing their wages for their labor. And so this notion of market rate as the thing that we hold ourselves up to is just plain crazy.
Of capital held by faith-based organizations and individuals around the world, particularly in the United States, is lazy. It's unwilling to take the kinds of risks that we've heard about. And in being lazy and unwilling to take risks, it reveals that it doesn't really understand the heart of the master for why that capital has been entrusted.
You are very advanced in your way of thinking about impact investment. And because of this understanding, you are creating new ways, okay? Combining it with the values of our faith.
To what degree is any measurement a form of self-deception? Because measurement, the whole idea of the focus on what is measurable is in and of itself can be a trap. But at the same time, it's so important because how do we know what's real if we're not exercising some discipline?
I think you're going to need an XY axis. Sarah, to your point, it's more like when we're talking about this, sometimes we're talking about a return / risk, like the finance side.
Yep.
But then you're also talking about what's like in some ways like the impact side too.
Yes.
So
there's this inherent tension in measurement of having some system in place to try to think through that we're being disciplined in our practice, but at the same time that has to be held lightly because all measurement is in and of itself subjective. The idea that we can have objective measurement is a bit of internal BS we like to fool ourselves with.
I just think there's a lot of power to writing out a map, to like saying to yourself or collectively as a group what it is you're trying to accomplish and being very concrete about what those tools look like and how you intend to use them. Because it sets kind of a background for expectations for the rest of your larger group.
we actually talked about shared infrastructure on deal sourcing and due diligence, you know, investor deal matchmaking, how to...
So what are our success indicators? What will be in place in the next 2 to 3 years? What would we see? What are our first year accomplishments? And what's our current reality in these arenas? So getting very clear on where we are, where we want to go, and how we're measuring how we're going to get there. So
middle market businesses with diverse workforces and low and moderate income workers, and then we use our debt capital to essentially help finance the transition of that company into 100% employee-owned using an ESOP, employee stock ownership plan.
So how have been created, and the fund managers, if you ask them, is this your dream structure for the work that you're doing? They would say no. Like, I would way rather have a very patient credit fund or some other structuring rather than, and the reason that they're having to do that is because the buy side is coming in and saying, like, we're only gonna bring our money if it looks and smells like the other things that we're used to buy. And so systemically, that's an issue that we're very interested in. How do we tackle that? And
like, so for that kind of root cause, starting to like get into like what would be some of the potential interventions or strategies
to co-invest together, to actually take action on that, on due diligence. The third, you know, maybe the pithy way of saying this is educate through seeing deal flow. You know, one way to really bring this employee ownership to foundations is kind of my perspective is let's see a bunch of deal flow, these 10 to 15 deals that you're seeing, and you know, see the impact. And oh, by the way, it's employee ownership, and that's what's causing some of this impact. So
on the direct investment or company side, and then you're also seeing a lot on the fund side. That's probably the, like, you know.
I think I'm really interested in how do we bring collective force of the work that you guys are doing the last 2.5 years, work that you're doing to frame this up, to start to say what are ways that we can get momentum behind things that remove the barriers for investment committees and families to just easily move into these investments.
Where which can help you as proxies, but are different than if you would do this for now.
But there should be certain kind of criteria. Do you think there should be certain kind of criteria that can be put in place in this dialogue between the global, like the investors and those receiving the money, so we can have an understanding on the people know what the investors wants and they can come.
It has taken us a wonderful journey of turning this problem into an investment fund. So we are RE11, and RE11 is based on giving rise to community 11, Communities, as well as UN SDG 11 on sustainable cities and communities.
Stewardship of the earth, sort of maintaining what God gave us in creation. What I didn't realize was that I was perpetuating a lot of extractive practices, right? So no ownership for local communities, not a lot of consulting with those communities about what not they wanted to plant in their area, etc. And coming to Candide and getting familiar with the Climate Justice Fund that we have, I learned that there's a different way to do that work. And so I just wanted to pull together a group to talk about our responsibility as we save the planet to save the people as well, right? And to do that in a way that's in concert with community, with ownership models and ways of sharing energy with low-income households, etc.
Is reimagining business education. So a lot of the conversation that we've been having yesterday and today is kind of like, arguing for a new paradigm, a different approach that is different from the neoliberal, technocratic paradigm that we have today. But unfortunately, in our business schools, most of what we teach is ingrained in that old and traditional model. And so if we really want to kind of shift the needle, we need to reimagine what we teach in our business schools, try to see how we can use impact investing to make an impact on the students who can also then transform the world.
Conclusion that we felt some of the barriers that sit in this space are cultural and communication barriers, differences between the generations and racially, and that may be preventing some young people from engaging in these social justice issues.
And give people the tools to achieve that. And what we've seen is that we don't have good models. There are not good models of what it looks like to have thriving Black communities over multiple generations. And so even the name, East Freedom and these are some of the collabs and things that we commissioned. And how do we depict artistically what it means to have Black thriving communities and futures? Structural racism exists. There's a reason communities don't own their communities now. I would love in 10 years, we're not solving this problem again.
My name is Yi Chen, and I'm with Kachwa and the SK2 Fund. I think the word that comes to my heart is held, and as an outsider who doesn't live in Chicago, that flew in from California, I'm really grateful for the city for holding us, for the beautiful botanical gardens for holding us, for our amazing hosts at LCDC for inviting us in and having us here. And
Archie's roaring presence has clarified an even deeper fear, one that has long lived beneath the surface of my life, but has come unmistakably to the forefront. Now, it's one thing to feel our fears, and it's another to name them, to figure out what they actually are. What are we actually afraid of? In Elizabeth Oldfield's recent essay for Comment Magazine, I came across an articulation that gave my fear a face. She writes, "I want to be the kind of person that is needed at the end of the world. I want to be of use, not anxious and hoarding, which is not a great basis for loving our neighbor, but steady and hopeful. I want to contribute to weaving a canopy of trust under which other people can shelter." She continues, writing that she wants to be a person who takes radical action to protect human dignity, both her own and that of others, in the gravest and most dangerous of social, political, and historical circumstances. Over the last several months, I've come to realize that my greatest fear is that I won't raise my son to be the kind of person who, like Peter, is courageous enough to step out of the boat onto the water towards his beckoning Lord. And I'm afraid that I am not that kind of person. And I fear that as a society, intoxicated by the search for worldly gain and busy measuring ourselves by economic standards, we're losing our capacity to be the kind of people that, in Oldfield's words, are needed at the end of the world. As Tim McGreedy said yesterday in his lightning talk in Matthew 6:21, we're told that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. We might translate this logic differently. Where your fear lies, there your vocation lies also. Or in plainer English, that thing you're afraid of, go do that thing. When we contemplate the moral leaps our hearts are aching for, we're often bogged down by the wind and the waves, our real but shallow fears. The fear of failure, the fear of being judged, the fear that everything rests on us, the fear of being insignificant, the fear of disappointing our raging egos. It's a healthy practice, I think, to reflect daily on the Peters of history, our moral heroes, the ones brave enough to get out of the boat into the storms. For me, it's Saints Perpetua and Felicity, it's Sophie Scholl, Franz Jägersnader, Harriet Tubman, Dorothy Day. Sitting in the examples of their lives, shouldn't our greatest fear be that we lacked the capacity to risk like them, that we never got out of the boat in the first place? Seeking to be a fiercely moral, fiercely faithful, fiercely holy person, it seems, is the only thing that's really worth doing. And when we slow down and really listen to the cry of the earth, the cry of the poor, we find that Jesus too calls to us from the water. Come. Today's gospel offers two lessons about what we can expect when we accept Jesus' divine invitation to step out of the boat into this great moral theological adventure that is our birthright. First, when Peter steps out into the water, I find it telling that Jesus does not calm the storm. When we take great, faithful, and moral leaps, the waves of the world do not subside. Indeed, they may seem to increase. Being a disciple of Jesus is not about climbing upwards. It's about what Jesuit priest Dean Brackley calls downward mobility. That those who wish to be Jesus' companions in mission will have to resist temptations to wealth, to prestige, to ambition, and beg to follow him in poverty, service, and persecution. Catholic social teaching does not offer a smooth path to worldly prosperity. What it offers is a set of costly commitments that, when embraced, transform us and draw us closer to God.